You know, Ritu ma'am, I had a very interesting discussion with my class today. We were having a talk about these half-yearly examination results, and Ajay mentioned that Section A has always been considered a better class because both the toppers are from this class. But Ritu ma'am, Section B is the class that has more students scoring above 75%. So is Section A really better than Section C? Valid query, and it has kept me thinking ever since. There has to be some mathematical procedure which will actually tell us whether which section has performed better.
Yeah, it is an interesting point. Let's go to our principal.
Okay.
She has the mathematics background and she will be able to guide us.
Okay.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Ritu and Ms. Mitzi.
Ma'am, we have some queries about the comparative performances of two sections. Ma'am, could you please help us with that?
Definitely, I'll take you to Mrs. Ritu Khati, who is a subject expert on that, and I'm sure she's going to help you out for that. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Hi, Mrs. Khati.
Good morning to you, ma'am.
Can we have some of your time?
Definitely.
I have my teachers, Ms. Ruchi Singh, class teacher of section A, and Ms. Ritu, class teacher of section B. They have some queries, and I'm sure you'll be able to help them out with the statistical queries regarding comparative performance of the students of their classes.
Definitely, ma'am. I'll try my best.
Please help them out. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, what do you want to know?
Ma'am, we evaluate each student by giving them grades or marks according to his or her performance in the test or examinations that we conduct. The student getting the highest aggregate marks is awarded the first position, and so on. Thus, the aggregate marks are the only criteria that we use to compare the performance of one student with the other, a group of students with the other, or one section with the other. Are there any other ways of comparison of performance of individual or group of students that might be more fair, comprehensive, or informative?
Oh, yes. In fact, a branch of mathematics known as statistics deals in tabulations, comparisons, and projection. Statistical analysis is very useful in measurement, evaluation, and projection.
Ma'am, we would really like to know more about these statistical techniques and how they can be used in normal school situations.
First of all, we must understand what is data. Data refers to a set of observations, values, or objects which are the raw materials for statistics. For example, the number of students in a class, their mother tongue, or their heights. These are all various kinds of data.
Can the marks obtained by students in an examination be called as data?
Of course, the marks can be referred to as quantitative data as they are numerical entities. But if we are classifying students on the basis of qualitative features like attentiveness, punctuality, regularity, etc., the data will be called as qualitative data. Whatever be the type of data, for statistical analysis, they have to be tabulated and grouped.
Is it done in the same manner as we prepare our report cards?
Yes, in a way, but in different patterns. For example, in a student's report card, you enter the scores obtained by him or her in a particular subject against the column indicated for it. Now, if you have to find out where does the student stand in performance in a particular subject compared to the performance of the entire class, we consider the class mean or measure of central tendency in that particular class. Let us see how to find that out. Suppose this is a list of scores obtained by 20 students of a class in English out of a maximum of 100 marks. We now compare the performance of a student who has obtained 67 scores with the rest of the class. Mean is equal to sum of the scores upon total number of cases is equal to, if we calculate the complete sum, equals to 1351 divided by 20, and the scores that we get are 67.55. The mean comes to 67.55. So, the student whose score is 67 is below the class mean. This indicates that the student's performance is below average.
But in cases in which a few get very high or very low scores, don't you think it might create a disturbance in the mean, as has happened in this case? Can a remedy be found in statistics for such a situation?
This is a very interesting question indeed. There is a very viable solution to such a problem, which is known as the median. This is the midpoint in which 50% of the scores lie above and below. Even if there are very high or low scores, this point remains unchanged. To clarify further, let us arrange all the 20 scores in a sequence. For finding the median, we take the value of the middle score. Here, the number of scores is 20, so the median is the value of the score between 10th and 11th. The score of 65 is the median score. So the score of 67 is actually above the median, and this means that the student's performance is above average. For further understanding of comparisons of two sections, let us now take the example of section A and section C. Let us calculate their mean using the formula mean is equal to am sigma ft by n multiplied by I, where sigma ft is the frequency, I is the class interval, and n is the total number of all cases. If we calculate the mean, it comes out to be higher for section A. Now let us calculate the median for the two groups. We first calculate the cumulative frequency Cf by adding the frequency of each class interval Ci to the previous one. The cumulative frequency just below the median class is Fp, and the frequency of the median class is Fm. The lower limit of the median class is L. Now, the formula for the calculation is applied for both. So, the median of scores in section C comes higher than section A. Thus, section C actually has a better performance. For further clarification, we can have graphical representation in the histogram of the scores of section A and section C. This will help us to find out the third measure of central tendency, that is mode. We find out the mode by looking at the histogram where the frequency is maximum. The midpoint of the class interval with the maximum frequency represents the mode. In both the cases, 77.5 is the mode, as the class interval 75 to 80 has the maximum frequency. Mode is the same for both section A and section C. By looking at the three measures of central tendencies, we observe that the mean of section A is higher than the mean of section C. The median of section C is higher than the median of section A, and the mode is the same for both the sections. Although mean and median for the two sections are different, but their difference is very small. Moreover, mode for both the sections is the same, so the performance of both the sections may be treated at par.
Ma'am, I noticed that the difference between the maximum and the minimum scores is more in the case of section A. Has this got something to do with this phenomena?
Indeed, you are right. Here, the concept of dispersion comes in. The measure of dispersion provides a quantitative index of the degree of variation among a particular set of scores. These can be helpful in providing a comprehensive picture of the performance of a student. A very convenient measure in this regard is the percentile rank. It shows the exact position of a particular student among a group of students. Suppose a student has a percentile rank of 75, then 75% of the students have scores less than this individual. Thus, it is more informative measure than the individual score. This is the way we find out from the data of section A by using the formula P75 or percentile 75 is equal to L plus 75 upon N over 100 minus FB upon F into I. Thus, it is more informative measure than the individual score. This is the way we find out from the data of section A. So, the student scoring just above 79.44 has the percentile rank of 75. In the report card, if subject-wise percentile ranks are provided, it will give an accurate representation of the performance of a student with reference to a group. This way, we can prepare detailed student profiles which will be very helpful to both the teachers and the parents in better understanding, diagnosis and taking remedial measures.
Can students' profile be made to provide information of their performance over a period of time?
Of course, the report cards of students or the school records can have graphical curves representing the performance of the student in a particular subject, even from the preceding classes. This can be a ready reminder for the teachers and the parents to know how a student has progressed or deteriorated, as an example of the student profile. As it is quite obvious from the comparative performance of a student in science, maths and social science in classes 7th and 8th. Other information that can be included in the profile is the involvement of the student in co-curricular activities. Thus, at a single glance, the entire performance of the student individually or in comparison of the class can be known.
Thank you very much, Khati ma'am, for your valuable guidance. This will surely help us make a better judgment of our own performances and that of our students.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, Ambika ma'am, Ritu ma'am has not been coming for the past few days.
Yeah.
But you remember that discussion we had the other day?
About assessment of comparative performance of group of students.
Exactly. What do you
Yes.
say? Should we go to ma'am and ask the
Yes,
questions?
yes, why
for
not?
her?
Let's go.
May I come in, ma'am?
Please do come in. Yes,
Good
please.
morning, ma'am.
Good morning, good morning. ma'am. Good morning. Please have a seat.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we really need to thank you for referring us to Mrs. Khati, as her information about assessment of comparative performances of groups of students was quite beneficial. I have been talking to Ambika ma'am about it, and we have further queries about the same.
Ma'am, nowadays the emphasis has been on continuous comprehensive evaluation of individual student. Could you please explain this aspect? and how statistical and evaluation technique help us for continuous comprehensive evaluation?
You're right, Ambika ma'am. We need to be clear ourselves first about continuous comprehensive evaluation as done in the classroom, especially for individual students.
Continuous comprehensive evaluation is beneficial for all-round development of personality of students. As you know, the term continuous comprehensive evaluation has got two words in it, continuous and comprehensive. Now, continuous basically means regularity and continuity in evaluation, and comprehensive means details of all aspects that are required for all-round development personality of a child, that is scholastic as well as non-scholastic.
Ma'am, we evaluate and record the scholastic achievement of students in the form of class tests and examinations, which are taken periodically, monthly, half-yearly and yearly. But we are least bothered about non-scholastic achievement of a student. And will you please elaborate on this non-scholastic aspect and help us in assessing these?
Well, Ambika ma'am, non-scholastic aspects are basically related to social behavior and attitudes that include honesty, punctuality, cooperation, democratic behavior, politeness and respect for others.
But how do we observe, record and assess these aspects which are not scholastic?
As non-scholastic aspects are related to attitudes and values, they are to be observed through observation techniques and assessed through grades. Now, these observations are recorded in the form of a cumulative record. A cumulative record consists of personal biodata, scholastic achievements, physical health, co-curricular activities and character building values, habits, interests and attitudes.
Ma'am, the two aspects mentioned by you in the cumulative record are social behavior and values like honesty, etc. But how is one to assess these?
To evaluate social behavior, a sociogram is to be used. The individual number 10 is an individual who is accepted by maximum number of individuals in his peer group. At the same time, you have individual number 7 who is not accepted by his peer group. Thirdly, there is also a group of individuals 2, 4 and 8 which forms a very well knit friendly group. There is another point to be observed in this. Individual number 1 and 10 and 9 and 10, it is only one-way interaction between the individuals. This gives us a clear-cut idea of the acceptability of an individual by his group. So this gives us basically an idea about the social behavior of an individual to be recorded in a cumulative record. Now, for evaluating honesty and punctuality, an anecdotal record is to be used. Now, an anecdotal record basically consists of putting an individual in a situation and then observing his behavior. Those observations can be recorded in the form of a cumulative anecdotal record, which has a description of date, time, name of the pupil, description of the anecdotes. You can have number of situations given to the child, name of the observer and comments whatever have been given by the observer.
But ma'am, how are all these aspects to be recorded and maintained, since we are only familiar with the report cards carrying the scholastic aspects of the students and their achievements in their subjects?
Evaluation of scholastic and non-scholastic aspects are to be recorded and maintained in a cumulative record. A cumulative record has got three main parts. The first one is scholastic achievement of a child, which refers to cognitive achievement in terms of marks obtained in a particular subject. Second part of the table refers to co-curricular activities and character building values, which are non-scholastic aspects. These are assessed in terms of grades. Third interesting part of the table is maintenance of the health record of a child, and physical health assessment is equally important for comprehensive evaluation of an personality of an individual.
But ma'am, we find that grades are awarded for non-scholastic aspects. in the specimen of cumulative records demonstrated by you. But why grades are preferred, not marks, for evaluation of non-scholastic aspects?
For assessment of non-scholastic aspects, we use grading system as they assess the range of abilities. For human social behavior, we cannot specify and pinpoint the assessment as we do in the marking system. Keeping in view the same, professional courses like medical and engineering and even B.Ed through IGNOU are using grading system.
Fine, madam. But can we use statistical techniques like finding mean, etc. in the grading systems?
There are two types of grading, absolute grading and comparative grading. In absolute grading, we have grades, a range of marks and grade points. The details of absolute grading. Grade A refers to 70% and above with grade points 5. B refers to achievement between 60% to 70% with grade points 4. C corresponds to 50% to 60% achievement with grade point 3. D means 40 to 50% achievement with grade points 2, and below 40% it is E with grade point equal to 1. To find out the overall grade, we find out the average of the grade points. Now for example, if we have a student who achieves grade A in one subject, he will have the grade points 5. B will correspond to grade point 4 in second subject. In third subject, if he has got C grade, then he will have grade point 3. Fourth subject, grade D will mean grade points 2. Next subject, grade E will mean grade point equal to 1. In order to find out the overall grade of that child, it will be average of all the grade points, that is 3 equivalent to grade C. For comparative grading, we compare the performance of an individual with a group performance.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for explaining to us the use of latest development in evaluation process. Continuous comprehensive evaluation and grading systems are applicable both to individual and group of students. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.